Robby, what's on your radar?
Well, I am not done talking about the slap. You know what I'm talking about, of course. On Sunday night at the Oscars, Chris Rock made a dumb joke about Jada Pinkett Smith, which prompted her husband, Will Smith, to walk up on stage and slap him across the face. Watch here.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Wow.
So afterward, Chris Rock tried to play it cool, but Will Smith yelled at him for saying his wife's name out of his effing mouth. So this was a genuine moment of aggression between the two, not something that was planned or scripted as some had suspected. Smith really did march up there and slap Rock because his wife, who has alopecia, didn't appreciate the joke about losing her hair, if that was what the joke was, about her hair rather than her wardrobe. It's not totally clear, but who cares? Now, in the year 2022, we are unaccustomed to witnessing notable public figures engaging in spontaneous acts of violence, and thus the slap is all anyone can talk about. My colleague at Reason, Eric Boehm, had one take. He argues that Rock handled himself pretty well, all things considered. He didn't further escalate the matter, nor did he apologize, nor did he lose his composure, and that's basically the right way to handle this, so I agree with the take. But this is definitely a two-take event, at least. So additionally, I would like to note that Will Smith has reminded everyone precisely why it is so dangerous to erode the critical post-Enlightenment distinction between words and actions. This distinction was a social innovation that made violence less necessary and thus less common. Woke liberals who are trying to reassert the equivalence between speech and violence are perhaps inadvertently hearkening back to a more barbaric time. So for most of human history, people did in fact live their truth. Speech was violence, and anyone who said something offensive could invite reprisal. People who offended their neighbors would engage in blood feuds for generations. People who offended the political authorities could be dismembered. People who offended the religious authorities could be burned to death. Speech was not viewed as some special separate category of behavior. Impugning another person's reputation could absolutely be considered a provocative act, the same as striking him in the face. Letting people kill each other every time they get upset about something is actually not a very good way to run a society. So thankfully, over the past 300 years, many advanced civilizations have evolved cultural norms that delineate words and actions. It's not a universal rule, of course. People do still come to blows after quarreling, though the fact that they can be arrested for such conduct tends to discourage it. Over time, it has become less and less common to encounter reciprocal violence outside of a few exceptional scenarios. Prisons, which contain a disproportionate number of antisocial people, schools, where kids are still learning how to socialize, and sometimes bars, where alcohol lowers inhibitions. Now on Twitter, Bridget Fedesi, a friend of mine, says that Smith's slap shows that, quote, we've reached the inevitable conclusion of words are violence. The Atlantic's Elizabeth Brunig pushed back, saying, well, there were historical periods in which that was like a legitimate legal reason to do violence against someone, lol. So Brunig and Fedesi are actually both right. People attacking each other is what results from a norm of words are violence. And we know this because it was the norm for most of human history. That's not so much the case now, but it always could be again. It's why a healthy level of contempt for Smith's behavior is the right attitude. Don't hit people, even if you dislike what they say. In other words, everyone should find themselves in that lower right quadrant. That's where I am. And I want to further highlight two more takes, one good and one bad. Here's friend of the show, Marianne Williamson, making a lot of sense. She tweets, having run for president, I can honestly say that if the men in my life had hit every comedian who belittled me, made fun of me, and insulted my honor, there might not be any comedians left. And here's a New York State Assembly person who thinks literally everything is violence. So that's helpful. And that tweet was deleted, but I screenshotted it, so we still got.
Like many other tweets, interestingly.
Yeah.
About.
It was
a ton of takes were taken down.
Yeah.
People think maybe they're. I don't know. I hope people were thinking through their reactions and coming to a wiser, more enlightened place.
A place where speech should not invite violent attack. And look, I get it. It was not the most striking example of violence we've ever seen. It was a slap. He didn't nearly kill him or so. I saw that. He could have killed him. Probably not very likely.
Pretty unlikely.
They're like, well, what if it was Betty White? Okay, if it was Betty White, I guess, sure, but it wasn't.
It wasn't Betty White.
Hopefully he would have, restrained himself if it was Betty White. But and now Will Smith has apologized. Kind of a, rambling apology. Violence in all its forms is poisonous and destructive. My behavior was unacceptable, inexcusable. Jokes at my expense are part of the job, but a joke about Jada's medical condition was too much for me, and I reacted emotionally. I would like to publicly apologize to you, Chris. Was out of line. I was wrong. I am embarrassed, and my actions were not indicative of the man I want to be. There's no place for violence in a world of love and kindness, and he also apologizes to the Academy, which is reviewing the incident.
And he says he's a work in progress, I think, at the end, something like that.
Yeah, I'm a work in progress.
As a society, we're a work in progress, and we got to work to progress past this kind of thing. Because, like you said, this was common. This was
it was the norm.
Central.
That's how most people lived. If you if you offend me, I will kill you. Yeah. That's most people's experience. Yeah. Until like the 1700s.
And in my radar, soon I'm going to talk about the history of dueling, which was
very
central to this code of honor. But I think people should also ask themselves how they would feel about this situation if his slap had landed, let's say his hand hit a particular part of his jaw and it knocks him out, and you watched Chris Rock crumple to the ground in front of you. Like, now are you entertained?
Yeah.
Like, because the force with which he swung his hand could have knocked him out.
Yeah.
Now, it's not, I don't think he was going to die, but it could have knocked him out.
You're right, we get a false impression from so many movies and TV shows where people like beat the crap out of each other and then walk off just fine. One of my favorite television shows is Lost, and I'm actually rewatching it right now. But it's funny because every time they just want to knock somebody out, they hit them in the back of the head with a rifle and and then they take a pleasant little nap. They do it to the pregnant lady. She just goes to sleep. She wakes up a few hours later. She's fine. No, if you hit someone in the head with a gun or any kind of blunt object, they might die.
Especially in the back of the head.
They might have horrible brain damage, or they might die. So we get this false impression from TV that people just walk. You could really beat people up and they're fine.
Especially with the butt of the rifle.
You hit somebody I had a cousin who was in a bar fight when he was in high school and can't hear in one ear because he got hit in the ear.
Yes.
Like that's it. One punch can do it.
Yes, and certainly his palm.
Yeah.
If it had hit his ear.
Yeah.
Now you say, well, he didn't hit his ear because he trained as Muhammad Ali. So is that your license that you're giving to people that you know that they're perfectly going to time this so that it hurts a lot, but it doesn't knock him out? And I think we would have understood it much more viscerally as wrong.
Right.
If you'd have watched him crumple before your eyes.
Right.
Like, it would be universal condemnation.
Yeah. Glad it didn't come to that, but it's really it's important not to. And I was chiding a little bit of the woke liberal type people who are like, no, words are violence. No, let's not make words violence. Words should not be violence. Words should be words. Violence is something else.
It was a great advance to get to a place where people could speak to each other, even harshly, and it not result in people getting killed. Yeah. And also the woke people standing up for chivalry,
very weird.
They have not really thought that through.
Very weird. Much. Very weird.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll discuss this more to follow. Looking forward to your radar next.